Health and fitness requires more than just the physical work. It starts with the work you put in to grow your mind. Welcome to the Mind Gains podcast, where we discuss what it takes mentally to see results physically. I'm your host, Jess. Let's get started. I cannot believe how close we are to the end of the year. It feels like 2024 just started, and here we are nearing the end of October already. It's crazy, but it's also super exciting. The last few months of the year are my favorite, October specifically. I love Halloween. I love the festivities and the candy, and then we get right on into Thanksgiving in November, and then we're on to Christmas, and it's super exciting. It's the best time of the year, in my opinion. But for a lot of people, the last few months of the year can be very overwhelming from a health and fitness standpoint if you're just starting out or if you're a little newer to the game. And it is a lot. It can be overwhelming because when you look at it, there's Halloween, there's Thanksgiving and Christmas and the New Year and all the family and friend get togethers in between all of that. There's a lot going on, and it's pretty much all surrounded by food. And when you're just starting out, it's really easy to look at the last few months of the year and be nervous about blowing your nutrition and not having time to get to the gym and not keeping up with the things you know you should be. It's hard. It really is. But we don't use things being hard as an excuse to just not do them around here. We look at a situation and say, you know what? Yeah, maybe these next few months will be harder than normal, but there's always something I can do. There's always a better decision I can make in every situation. And we learn to hurdle right over those barriers, those challenges, especially this one that we call the holidays, because the holidays come around every single year. It's not a surprise to us and it's not going away. So we need to learn how to navigate this time. So that's the purpose of today's episode. I want to give you all of my top tips for navigating the holidays, and hopefully you can take one or more of these tips and implement them this year to help stay on track through the end of the year, to help keep you from feeling like you're starting back at square one on January 1st, because truthfully, there's no reason that we have to feel that way. I mean, 3 months out of the year, we're already halfway through October. So I guess more like 2.5 months out of the year is a lot of time. It really is. And a lot of progress can be made during that time if we stop using the holidays as an excuse to just do nothing from October or November until January. There is absolutely no reason for us to throw all of our hard work away for the last few months of the year, every single year, and end up having to start all over again in the new year. So I put together my top tips for navigating your health and fitness journey during this time. And you already know I'm going to bring up the importance of your mindset surrounding all of this, but I want to hold off on that. I actually want to get to that last because it is the most important. So I'll touch on the practical things you can implement first, and then we will discuss the importance of choosing your mindset at the very end. All right, tip number one when it comes to navigating the holidays, brace yourself because you're probably not going to want to hear it. Cut down on the alcohol. I so mean this. You don't have to completely cut it out, but there is a big difference between including alcohol in moderation and including it all the time or going way overboard when you do drink. And the reason I say to cut down on the alcohol is because, in general, it doesn't help your progress ever, not even just around the holidays. But if you're someone who's trying to lose some body fat, especially, alcohol isn't doing you any favors. So if you're constantly consuming it the last few months of the year, you're going to have a really hard time making any progress at all, or possibly even just maintaining the progress that you have made until the end of the year. Here's the way I would approach this. If you're at a holiday party sometime in the next couple months and you've already gone into that situation knowing you want to drink, I would stay away from the mixed sugary drinks because those are going to be very, very calorie dense. And try to minimize your consumption to one, maybe two drinks, maybe. You're really going to want to minimize drinking as much as you can for multiple reasons. But one of them being when we drink, we also tend to not make the best decisions food wise following that because now we have a couple drinks in us, and I don't know about you, but that makes me want to eat. And I start to not really care about my food choices at that point. I'm not saying you have to completely cut out alcohol around the holidays, but the truth is that there's already so much excess food around us during this time that we don't need to be tacking on an abundance of alcohol onto that. And also, I don't know about you, but I would much rather have extra food or an extra dessert than have a drink. But that's just me. Tip number two when it comes to navigating the holidays, when you go to events, whether that's Thanksgiving, Friendsgiving, Christmas, whatever it is, don't splurge on the appetizers. Don't sit next to the big spread of meats and cheeses and crackers and dips and this and that. I don't know about y'all, but when I do this, I know I'm inevitably going to way overindulge on all of the appetizers before we've even gotten to the main meal. I'm specifically thinking about Thanksgiving here because we have so many good apps sitting out on Thanksgiving Day, but I don't wanna go ham on all the food that's sitting out before the turkey, the mashed potatoes, the cornbread casserole has even come out yet. If you wanna eat some of the appetizers, that's fine, but get yourself a small plate, grab a couple of things you really want, don't just mindlessly snack. Take your plate elsewhere, away from the appetizer table, and enjoy the couple apps you picked out. That way, you don't absolutely blow your nutrition before you've even gotten to the good stuff. You also don't want to go all in crazy on the appetizers and then not even be able to enjoy the main course. Which leads me to my next tip. Tip three is to utilize the one plate rule. This is so helpful for finding that balance of enjoying yourself, enjoying the food that's there wherever you're at while not going overboard. The one plate rule is exactly what it sounds like. It means that during your event, let's just say, Thanksgiving Day, your family gets together and has a big spread of food for dinner, as we all pretty much do. You're going to grab your one plate, fill it with whatever food you want that's there, sit down and enjoy it. That's it. This doesn't mean piling mounds of food on your plate or grabbing the largest plate you can find to serve yourself more food. It means grabbing a normal sized plate, adding the food you want to your plate in one single layer, and that is your meal. You still want to prioritize protein. You still want to be sure to throw some fruits or veggies on there, but you can include anything you want on that plate. I know for me, there's probably lots of things at the Thanksgiving dinner that I want to eat. So I'm not just going to fill my plate with mashed potatoes, even though this is the best food at Thanksgiving, in my opinion. But I know I'm also going to want turkey and ham because we're prioritizing our protein. So that's the first thing on the plate. Then I'll grab some green beans for veggies. Then I'll add on a small scoop of mashed potatoes because I'll also want to add a bit of that cornbread casserole on the side and maybe the wild rice and a roll and maybe a couple of other things. And I know if I load up on mashed potatoes, I'm not going to have any room on my plate for anything else. I can include anything I want so long as it all fits in a nice, even layer on that one plate. Then I sit down, I eat nice and slow, and enjoy my meal. Once I am done eating, I don't rush back up to the food table and grab another serving. I give it some time. Give it a few minutes, let the food settle and digest instead of just continuing to stuff myself and then be sorry about it a few minutes later once my body starts to recognize and catch up to the fact that I just ate all that food. And then I just enjoy the company I'm with. Even if everyone else is still eating or they're going up for seconds, that doesn't mean that I have to or that you have to. Just focus on the reason you're there, which is to be present and connect with friends and family. That's what you're there for, not the food. Once dessert starts coming out, I most definitely am having a little something, but I'm not grabbing everything in sight. I stick with one, maybe two desserts, depending on how big they are, and that is it. So, all in all, at that meal, at that Thanksgiving dinner or lunch or whatever it is, I've had one or two small appetizers, my one plate during the actual meal that was filled with food, and one to two desserts. Again, just depending on what they are and the size of them. And I'm done. Doing it this way allows you, again, to be able to indulge in and enjoy the food that's there But enjoying yourself doesn't mean you have to go crazy, eat everything in sight, and then feel overly full or bloated or sick afterwards. Like, that's not fun. Don't do that to yourself. Eat a normal portion size of food and move on with your day. My next tip for going into any holiday or social gathering you have over the next few months is going to be to make sure your day leading up to that event, that lunch or dinner or whatever it is no different than it would be on any other day. Here's what I mean by this. Halloween this year is on a Thursday. If you typically get up and get a workout in on Thursday mornings, get up and get your workout in if you can. This isn't a punishment for what's to come later that night. We're doing it because movement and exercise is good for us. We're not trying to make up for the candy we know we're going to be eating that night. You're also just a lot more likely to make better decisions throughout the day if you start your day off with your healthy habits, getting your workout in, or some steps, or some sort of morning movement. You're just setting yourself up to make better decisions for the remainder of the day because you started your day off right. Make sure that the remainder of your day looks the same exact way it normally would. If you typically eat 3 full meals a day, then eat your 3 full meals that you normally would on Halloween day. Don't try to fast all day or skip a meal that day in preparation for the candy you're going to be eating that night. It's so tempting to do this and try to quote unquote make up for the bad decisions you're assuming you're going to make later that night. Do not do it. It's not worth it. Because, first of all, now you're communicating to yourself that you're going to blow your nutrition that night, which might not even end up being true. So you have to restrict yourself all day leading up to that. This is 100% not the mindset you want to have. Secondly, now because you fasted all day, you're way more likely to actually overindulge now and go crazy that night because you've been restricted all day. Whereas if you would have just had your normal meals, treated it like any other normal day, you could have had some candy that night without catching yourself going completely overboard and having zero self control because now you're starving and you now have to just stuff your face with anything and everything you see. I have done this. Please take it from me and my personal experience that this never ends well. I have done this so many times, more times than I care to admit to. It's not worth it. And you usually end up actually overeating in that situation. Whereas if you would have just treated the rest of the day like any other Thursday, you could have avoided all of this and enjoyed the candy in moderation and without guilt. Same thing with the day after a holiday. The day after Halloween, after Thanksgiving and Christmas, you should not be changing up your daily routine or habits to try and counteract or make up for the food you ate the day prior. The day after Halloween, on Friday, you should not be going to the gym, doing 2 hours of Stairmaster, and fasting all day. Here's what you should do whatever you would normally do on a Friday. No more, no less. If you get up and get a lift in on Friday mornings, usually, go get your lift in. Don't swap it out for 2 hours of cardio because you want to try and sweat out all the excess calories you ate the night before. If you normally eat 3 meals every day, don't fast all day or skip any of those meals. Just get right back to your normal routine as quickly as possible. And I promise, 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 you will be A-okay and better off for it. It's so easy to jump on the scale the day after a holiday and freak out because the scale is up and go try to do all these crazy extra things to get the scale back down. The scale will go back down on its own. You don't need to do anything extra outside of your normal routine. And just kind of as a preparation for you, the scale will be up the day after a holiday because the way the foods are cooked with salt and butter and consuming maybe just a little bit more than you normally would, the scale will be up. It happens to all of us and it's not a big deal. Like I said, as long as you get right back to your normal routine the next day, that holiday meal is not going to make one single difference to your progress. Not one single bit. I want to break down for you what it actually takes to put on 1 pound of fat so that you can go into this holiday season with your mind a little bit more at ease, because I think this is so, so helpful to know. In order for you to actually put on 1 single pound of fat, you would have to eat 3,500 calories over your normal intake. 3,500 calories. Guys, no one is doing this. Unless you're absolutely letting loose, going all in, eating everything in sight, it's just not happening. Especially if you're being more mindful of your decisions around food and utilizing that one plate rule, you're not eating that much. I can almost guarantee it. I can also almost guarantee that the day after Thanksgiving, Christmas, whatever, the scale will probably be up by a good few pounds. I pinky promise you did not eat 10,500 calories over your normal intake in one day. No one is doing that. I promise you did not put on 3 pounds in one single day. And this leads me pretty nicely into my next tip. I think this is tip number 5. Do not stress over a few days out of the year. We put so much emphasis on the holidays, and truthfully, we give them way more power over us than we should. A holiday, an event, one single meal should not have the power to completely throw us off track and cause us to throw the last 3 months of the year out of the window every single year because we might be eating a little bit off plan for a few days. Honestly, even if you eat very off plan, I truly mean this with all my heart. Even if you eat very off plan for 3 days out of the last 3 months of the year, so who cares? It doesn't matter. Now, I'm not saying that that gives us free reign to eat whatever the heck we want for the holidays. Please don't take this as, well, Jess said it doesn't matter. I think we should still be making better decisions. But if worse comes to worse and you do end up eating way more than you intended to for 3 days out of the year, it's not going to matter that much in the grand scheme of things. Between October, November, and December, there are 92 days in total. Breaking down the amount of days you're actually going to be possibly eating off track, I can pretty much assume we all have Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas Eve, and Christmas. And you probably have a few more days here and there that you might have something going on. I know for me this year, I have my husband's and my brother's birthdays in October. I have a bridal shower and a bachelorette party in November, a rehearsal dinner, my brother's wedding, my birthday, and a couple other birthdays as well in December. So that's about 11 days on top of holidays. So, really, about 15 days in total within the next few months where I could be eating off plan. 15 out of 92 days. That's about 16% of the remainder of the year. Honestly, not even, because we're not eating entirely off plan all day long each of those days. We're eating one, possibly two meals off plan on most of those days. So, really, we're looking at about, let's just cut it in half and call it 8%. Why on earth are we giving so much power to 8%? That is nothing. If you are someone who uses the holidays as an excuse to either fall off track and halt your progress or, wait to start going to the gym and eating better until the new year, why? Really, ask yourself that question. Why are you going to waste 3 months of your life because of a measly 8% of possibly being off track? You can make a ton of progress in 3 months. You could lose 15 pounds in 3 months, even with the holidays going on. You could establish healthy habits into your life in 3 months. Why are we waiting? Why are we throwing our hands up and acting like the holidays are a good excuse to sit back, do nothing, and let 92 days of our lives pass us by without having made any progress? It's a lame excuse. It really is. And we're not doing it anymore. You have to develop an opportunistic mindset. Instead of looking at the last few months of the year and viewing it from the lens of there's so much going on, I know I'm not going to hit my calorie goal, I'm not going to hit my macros on the holidays, You have to start seeing all the time in between those instances where you can make tons of progress. This is what's holding you back. It's your mindset. Here we are once again. This is the Mind Gains podcast. It all comes down to your mindset. If you view the last portion of the year as this giant hurdle because of a few days, of course you're going to let the time pass you as you sit there doing nothing to take any steps forward. But if you change your perspective and have a mindset shift to start finding all the opportunities there are to see real change between now and 2025, you're going to take action and start embracing and taking advantage of those opportunities. This is where you want to be. This is what you want to be doing because those that do are the ones that actually achieve their goals and are successful with this. And those that don't, well, they never get there. They sit and wonder why they've been trying to make progress for years and they've just never been able to hack it. Change your mindset. My next tip for navigating the holidays is going to be choosing the events and the situations that are most important to you to fully participate in, meaning eating the food that's there. This is typically going to be all of the holidays, plus maybe a couple other extra days here and there throughout the year. Just because you have a social event to go to or a family gathering does not mean you have to eat the food there. If you decide you want to and it's important enough to you that you do, then go for it. No one's stopping you. But you are not required to eat the food that's at your annual family Halloween party or your cousin's birthday celebration that's happening mid November. So don't look at every single plan you have coming up over the next 2.5 months as a day you're going to be off track because they don't all have to be that way. You most likely have the option to either bring prepped food with you to have instead, or bring a food scale with you and choose the best options you're presented with to stay on track. I know this because this is what I personally do. I decide ahead of time which events I have coming up are ones that I would like to partake in the food that's there. Really, I'd like to partake in all of them, but ultimately, I'm okay with making some small sacrifices to reach my goals because that is way more important to me at the end of the day than enjoying a meal that's going to take me 15 minutes to eat. I decide which situations I'm more than okay with skipping out on the food there, either bringing my own food or eating right beforehand so I'm not worried about being hungry while I'm there, and which situations I want to not bring food with me and eat the food that's there. I know that I want to eat the actual food that's there on Thanksgiving Day, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, all of that. And I am most certainly not whipping out a food scale during those meals and weighing out and tracking my food. But for some of the smaller plans I have, I'll decide it's not worth it to me to eat off plan because they're smaller events and I want to eat the food that I know gets me closer to my goals. This is a personal choice. This is a decision you have to make for yourself. But this is what I do, and I found it super helpful. I look at all the plans I have coming up and decide ahead of time which ones I'm going to bring my own food for. You're allowed to do this. It doesn't hinder your ability to be present and have fun with whatever you're doing, whoever you're with. Do not place so much emphasis around the food in order to have fun and have a good time. It's just food, nothing more. And whether you're eating burgers and fries along with everyone else, or you're eating your meal prep, you can still participate the same exact way. You're still going to have a good time. Honestly, I would bet you actually have an even better time because you won't feel bad afterwards because you decided to eat whole foods instead of processed crap. And now you can actually enjoy yourself even more than you would have if you ate the food that was there. So look ahead of time at everything you got going on during the next few months. Decide where you might want to indulge a little bit and where you want to stay more on track and make sure you hit your nutrition targets. Because the more you can cut down on all the extra little occurrences of you eating off plan, the more on track you're going to be. And the days that you do end up eating off plan are going to matter even less. They're not going to have as big of an impact on your progress. If you know you have a Friendsgiving dinner in a week, make sure every day for the next week up until that dinner, you are on top of your nutrition targets. That way, if and when you do go a bit over on your calorie goal at your Friendsgiving celebration, it's not going to really matter because you did everything you needed to with your nutrition leading up to it. Last but most certainly not least is going to be deciding your mindset going into this holiday season. Because, yes, this is something you decide, and your decision here determines the level of your success. My biggest piece of advice here when it comes to mindset, my top tip for figuring out how you're going to navigate through the holidays is really thinking about how you want to feel after it's all over. It's so easy to get caught up in the moment and think about Thanksgiving Day and Christmas Day and how you want to feel in the moment. But have you ever taken time to think about how you want to feel after that moment is over? Because one day, one meal, one holiday season goes by fast. And once it's over, you're going to be left either feeling like you've done the best you've ever done during the holidays, feeling like you are not only able to just maintain your progress, but you were able to make progress even with everything going on, feeling your best physically and mentally, and having more trust and confidence in yourself because you know you're able to make better decisions. You know you're able to do hard things because you just did it. Or do you want to feel like you blew all the progress you made, you took zero steps forward, you reverted back to old habits, you've lost time, you don't feel like you have the ability to make hard decisions in the moment, even when you know they're what's best for you, and now you're worried about next year because you know you didn't do well this time around and you're scared you're going to blow it again? You need to take some time and reflect on both of these options. Really dig deep and ask yourself how you want to feel rolling into the new year. Because before you know it, it'll be here. And all those days you made the decision to absolutely botch your nutrition will have come and passed. And will it really matter to you on January 1st if you went crazy and lived it up over the past few months? Or are you going to be disappointed with yourself because you know you're capable of more? We have to stop always thinking about now, now, now. What do I want right now? What feels good right this second? And giving into that because 9 times out of 10, what you want now and what you want long term will not line up at all. You have to start making decisions with your future self in mind. What would they want? Would your future self want to start 2025 off feeling back to square one? Or would they want to start it knowing they were able to lose 10 pounds while still enjoying the holidays? And something you can implement in real time in the moment when it comes to your decisions around food is asking yourself how you're going to feel both physically and mentally after eating it. Because there's no doubt it'll be great in the moment. For the 5 to 10 minutes it takes you to eat whatever it is, but after you have it, are you going to feel kind of gross? Are you going to feel overly full or bloated or just not your best? Are you going to be upset and disappointed with yourself for constantly giving in to what you want in the moment and not practicing discipline and self control? Is that food going to fuel your body well and make you feel your best and feel energized? After you eat it, are you going to be in a really great headspace because you made the hard decision and decided to stick to your plan even amidst temptation? Before you eat it, ask yourself these questions and look at how you're going to feel after you're done eating it for the rest of the day. I know it seems a little woo woo, a little hokey, but truthfully, you need to do this. You have to get very reflective and very critical and think about the future. Think about how your future self wants to feel, whether that's going into the new year, whether that's in a week, whether that's in 30 minutes. How does your future self want to feel? You have to decide how you're going to go into the holiday season because not everyone is going to stay on track. Not everyone wants to, and that's okay, to each their own. But if that is your decision, then you cannot be upset at yourself or at anyone or anything else after you've had your fun. Own the decision you made and move on. But if you're here listening to this podcast, I can almost guarantee you want more. You want to stay on track over the holiday season, at least in part. And if that is the case, you have to make a very conscious decision to do that heading into it. Implement the tactics that work for you. Try to be a little better than you were last year. And seriously, don't stress it. Be aware of your decisions and aim to be 1% better this year. That's always the goal. But do not stress yourself out over, what did I say, like 8% of the next few months? That's crazy. Do your best and forget the rest. And I promise if you approach your holiday season this way, you will come out of it feeling the best you ever have, and you will be able to make progress even with all the craziness that comes along with this time of the year.